We're going to be speaking about inspiring consumer confidence in a shifting market. I think it's no secret that markets are, dare I say, volatile in some degree. And so we want to talk through that. I'm going to just briefly have you introduce yourselves as our panelists, and then we'll do some housekeeping, and then we'll get right into the subject matter. How about that?
Patrick Abad, General Manager of Beaver Toyota in Cumming, Georgia.
Thank you.
I'm Matt Jones. I am a spokesperson for TrueCar, and I manage a TrueCar product called TrueCar Plus.
Jeff Ramsey, Chief Marketing Officer for Robert Orsman's 18 locations.
Okay, so the housekeeping is simple. Pull open your app if you have it. If you click on this session and go to the live Q&A, I will do my best with no guarantees, but I will try. I will strive to do my best. Yeah, that's right. To look at that live Q&A so that you are a part of this discussion. We want this to feel like a conversation that includes you, not speaking at you, because that's not very fun, if that's fair. And then, of course, with us, this is a conversation. So if you make a point and you want to hop onto it, the goal here is that I should do the least amount of talking as possible, contractually. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I want to kick it off this way. When we think about inspiring consumer confidence in a shifting market, I want to start with where we left off in that leadership panel. You shared the story about Stephanie and what were their names? And John Watson, the school teachers who had what started as an exciting experience that quickly derailed itself. And when I think about the different timeline or the different milestones in that timeline that you brought up, there were so many points of miscommunication that happened that created what then turned into a very non-transparent perception for them, right? And when I think about how transparency ties into this concept of inspiring consumer confidence, from your perspective, we'll start here, and then again, feel free to jump in. What can we do to change that to, on the next swing at bat, inspire the level of consumer confidence that needs to be there so that the experience, the throughput of the experience is amazing regardless of what's happening in the market?
Okay, so I'm going to piggyback off of something that I said this morning, but you actually have to start by doing good business. You will never get a consumer to have confidence in you in a dealership if you're not doing good business. Otherwise, it's just smoke. And I think it starts there because it comes from your team, right? As an owner, as a general manager, you can talk how we do business the right way. You can advertise it. You can do all these things, but if your people don't believe it, if your people have to go out on, and this is now going to when you present a first pencil, if your people don't believe in what they're presenting to the consumer, that confidence is eroded instantly. So it says inspiring confident consumer in a shifting market, but it starts with ever even just earning that confidence. And I think it's in every interaction that you do. Do the right thing over and over and over again and watch what happens with your consumers.
Thoughts?
You know, I was, like everybody in this room, I've gone to several sessions, and I've noticed some themes thematically that we're seeing throughout this event. You know, whether it is like an innovation feedback loop that you and Danny and Brian were talking about the other day, or putting CDPs together I saw with Ashley and Carter Myers yesterday. What we're all talking about is creating an environment where we know what's going on. We have a good viewpoint of how our inventory is stacking up against our market. We have a clear viewpoint of like all the touch points that my dealer could possibly have with this customer via CDP. What we're looking for is transparency. That's really what we're looking for if we look across all of these different tools and all of these different options as sellers. Our consumers are looking for transparency as well. And the reason I'm kind of reluctant to use that word is over the past decade or so, generally when we hear that word, it's connected to price. But in a lot of ways, I think that you can inspire confidence by thinking of transparency as just the opposite of ambiguity. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pricing conversation. And for the people who do know me, generally I like to talk about examples that are outside of automotive because I think it makes things sit. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and ask anybody in the audience if they have ever dated somebody and you didn't know what their intention was. And when you think about that, that is nothing other than a lack of clarity.
You said you weren't going to get personal.
Okay, that's not personal then. Have you ever needed a repair done on your home and your contractor said, I'm going to get it done as soon as I can, I'm going to do the best job that I can, and you can count on me? That is not transparency. That's a lack of clarity. Neither of those two environments inspire confidence. So the same things that we're looking for ourselves, we should be relaying to our consumers to help them feel more confident in a very tumultuous market, but it doesn't have to strictly and solely be about pricing. There's other ways that we can be transparent with them, with our timelines, with following up with the way we say they're going to follow up, with our language. So I think that's a foundation, is our communication skills with our consumers.
What do you think?
Going last, I got to bring the heat. Jeez.
Yeah, you do.
So, I think I look at this conference, and there's so many areas in this conference that talk about technologically advanced areas in the automotive industry. And I am, I've been in auto now 19 years professionally. It always comes back to the couple core things. Just do the right thing. Be a dealer that answers the phone. Every day something will break. Stand by your word. But that's where the baseline is when we're talking about in this market, keeping, getting trust, transparency with customers. It always comes back to just, are you doing the right thing? Are you misleading customers? When something goes wrong, are you taking care of it? Yeah. And that's where a lot of these sessions, I look at and I'm like, God, when you look at auto dealers, a lot of us are really doing our best to do the right thing. But that doesn't always go that way. I mean, there's everyone has a story from when something bad happened and it wasn't handled right, and they, reviews and everything else. But for me, I mean, come back to what you're saying. It's do the right thing. Just answer your phone. The car's going to break. Ferrari stores have service departments. Just be accountable.
I'm going to add on that because I think this is an important piece to it. Because and I said this in the morning session, that so many of the dealers, I look at the ones in the room right now and some of our friends and, Liza's group, we do the right thing. Our stores generally do the right thing. And I'm watching everybody shake their heads. Yes, we do the right thing. Roy and I were talking yesterday, right, about fixing a reputation of a dealer. But there's another layer that we have to do now if we really want to make an impact, and we actually have to market that. Because the only thing people are hearing, if you want to inspire consumer confidence, you have to be able to brand yourself and market yourself as the dealer who does the right thing. If you're doing the right thing, don't brand yourself on doing the right thing and then go screw up our business, you jackasses. What you need to be doing is you need to have a dealership that you're doing the right thing, and you got to go tell the world about it, because that is how you'll inspire. Because that's how you'll fix consumer confidence, one customer at a time.
Before you ask your next question, if I may. One of the cool things about TrueCar, we help people buy and sell cars, but we have a tremendous amount of behavioral data. We have a lot of surveys, and we actually are in a position where we can watch a person start shopping, and we actually see what they actually buy, and we see the steps along the way. So we really understand consumer behavior. And one of the things that we've identified is that there's contingent of consumers. If anybody wants more detail, we could talk about it later. But there's 25% of today's car shoppers say that having an easy car buying process is actually more important to them than buying the exact right car. And if we think about the people that we know, I'm sure everybody in this room knows a person who bought a particular brand of vehicle because they could buy it online and they just didn't want to go through the hassle. None of us would do that, but we know people who do that. 25% of today's shoppers say that. So when you're talking about marketing that you're doing the right thing, that number can erode. That number can come down a little by little, when people understand I can actually have that easy process at my local dealer or with the person who, sold my dad his car, or her, these people who exist, I don't need to go over there. It sounds counterintuitive as a guy who runs a digital marketing place, but I talk to these consumers, and this is some of the reasons why they decide they want to come onto a digital marketing place, because they don't have that confidence in their local dealer, because they have not been shown that by their local dealer, nor has it been marketed. So when we're talking about inspiring confidence, I think one of the great things about this that we can do is this is a cost-free action. This is just training action. This is making sure that everybody's bought in. It's not signing up for some service that costs $10,000 a month. So everybody in the room, theoretically, could take advantage of it pretty quickly.
As I'm a chief marketing officer, so I think what I'm getting ready to say will haunt me at some point. But the marketing doesn't matter if you're not doing the right thing. If you're not backing it up, if you can't, if you're not delivering on those promises, the marketing really doesn't matter. And that's where it's the marketing can enhance, it can improve your results based off good behaviors. But like I've seen 100 times, you throw a good marketing guy, an intelligent person into a group where they're like, this guy can save us. It's like, no, your problems are deeper than that. and that's, that's where it always comes down to. Simple things. Answer the phone, do the right thing, don't lie.
Think about it in this terms. I love where this is going. We were joking, by the way, ahead of this, that we're like, we have no idea where this is going to end up. And I'm like, that's because I'm the moderator, and I don't know where it's going to end up. And that's the beauty of having a conversation. But I want to jump in on this. You said that no amount of marketing will matter, really. And what I love about what you're saying here to each of your points is this. We went through an era where it was just like, throw more money at it. Would you agree? It was like, it's marketing, throw more money at it. We've now just passed through an era where, dare I use the P word, a bunch of posers made a bunch of promises. All you need is my $99 course, and I'm going to show you everything you need to know to lasso the sun, moon, and stars. And then what do? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sign up. And you pay the $99, and they're like, and all you need is my $15,000 coaching program. Right? And you get into the coaching program, and then they're like, and by the way, all you need is my $100,000 a year program. And where do you like to go in the world? Make sure it's somewhere in the Caribbean so I can have that free vacation. Tools. And okay, the Italian in me. So now I'm enraged. What's my point? We are now in an era where we're starting to really unify around the fact that marketing and marketing budget will only amplify what was real to begin with.
Yeah.
And no amount of marketing dollars will compensate for a failing operation or an operation that doesn't communicate with its people. I mean, you could charge $15,000 for your 12 noon rallies with your team. I would pay. But do you know what I mean? So I think I get passionate about that as we're moving along that, and I just had to interject my 0.02 on it.
If you ever want to police it, hey, it's just an opinion. If you want to look at your closing rates, because when you're diving into closing rates and you're seeing, especially when you're comparing multiple stores, like marketing with a bad process, with bad follow through, it just shows up in closing rates. That's where you see your store sitting below 5%. Look at your highest converters. Look at just extract like your website traffic and say, man, this really should be converting at 15, 20, 25%, and I'm sitting here at 6. It's like there's an alarm that should be going off saying, we're not delivering. We're not doing something we should be.
I think, since these are short sessions and I'm looking at Cirillo's watch, we've got about, 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that we have some time in here towards the end to at least talk about what does behaving correctly look like? What can we do when we go back to our stores? If anybody in the room knows me, the most important thing to me is this kid that I have. I really like him. He's dope. My son manages a Valvoline Express Lube store in LA. And he took that job about a year ago. And he doesn't really have a mentor in his life at the store. The guy who owns his store owns like 10 stores. So he's on his own out there. So he's chosen me to help him with some things, right? So we go through his reviews, we go through his ups and downs, and he sends me this review that he got about 2 weeks ago. He was really, really amped about it, right? And the customer review said, thanks, Matt and Gilbert, for a great time through the show. You showed me what was going on. You explained everything. You really made me feel involved. You explained what the servicing was. And as a woman, I feel that sometimes I'm not treated that way in mechanic shops, right? Glowing, high fives, everything, right? So my son and I were talking about that. But I asked him to pull up the RO, right? And I said, let's take a look at that RO. And I said, do you notice anything about that? I already knew what the answer was going to be. And he goes, yeah, she paid blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, how does that compare to your traditional PVA? And he goes, oh my God, she paid 3 times more than everybody else. She did 3 times the service that everybody else did. And the connection there was he and his team were incredibly clear with her. You need this. They walked her to the car. They showed her this, and this. And her response was not only happiness, She opened up her pocketbook and spent more money than the average customer did. Now, the correlation is that when we talk about transparency, when we talk about doing the right thing, it's not just because it makes our hearts feel good. It's a good business case. So while we're talking about, this tool and that tool and this tool, at the very bottom, we should be talking about being good operators, but how do we make some of our people good operators? And when I say operators, I don't mean managers. I'm just talking about salespeople. How do we walk them through this process so that they're being clear, so that they can deliver on being a good business person?
That's such a great question, but I'll answer it this way. I was sitting at a Toyota meeting just a couple weeks ago and was actually moderated by David Kane, who I believe is one of the smartest human beings on the planet. And he was sharing some stats, and one of the stats he shared was that out of the transactions that Toyota has recorded through SmartPath, that 12% of customers said that they made their decision based on price. But all we do is sell price all freaking day long. But it's only 12% of the consumers making the decision on that. Right. But because, unfortunately, it's the path of least resistance. It's the easiest way to get somebody to say yes, is just be so dang cheap that they have to say yes. Yeah. And I know that goes against what a lot of people have been taught, and I just think it's crap. And if you want to inspire consumer confidence, make it about everything but the price. And I watch how your entire business shifts.
I want to ask some questions from the audience here. I think piggybacks off of this point. This is from, I didn't know we had French attendees. This one's from Anonymous. They've asked this. With the level of consumer trust that lies in technology, what is your stance on showroom experience offerings from vendors like CarNow or AutoFi and the impact of those offerings on consumer confidence? And the thread there for me is they are presenting a vehicle, they're presenting pricing options, they're making, in some way, shape, or form, that low funnel opportunity into a pricing discussion. How do you, what are your thoughts here? I'm seeing a sigh, a huff, a puff. Let her rip.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to go first, even though I don't have the right to, because I don't currently sell cars, right? I'm not sure that's actually a pricing discussion if you're using a tool like that on the showroom floor. What you're having is you're having a completed flow with a person who's built trust. And in that conversation, pricing happens to be a part of it. But it's not, I walk through the customer. When I sold cars, I was a one price guy. You went from getting 10 with me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that influences my thought. You are taking a customer that you've met their needs, you've built trust, otherwise they've abandoned you. And by the time that you're getting into pricing, it is part of a cohesive conversation. So I don't know that they're two separate things. And forgive me if I sound crazy by saying this, but in the environments where I have seen people who go front to back, they also tend to have higher PVAs.
With this question, we say CarNow, AutoFi. I guess AutoFi doesn't have a chat tool, correct? No. So we're speaking of the DR.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
In the showroom, I'm more thinking anywhere the customer is, website, whatever they're utilizing. Like if they're online and they're utilizing the DR tool and they're doing all the work, and then they come in and none of that's acknowledged, or they send it in, none of it's acknowledged, that breaks that process with the customer to dealer relationship. Where I get frustrated with some of the tools out there that are chat oriented with a DR tool is that it's not always the dealer having the conversation with the customer. And so you end up with a customer that's like working through the deal, they're structuring things, they think they're working with someone in the store, to find out it's someone at a call center, an AI tool. And then I think for me, like in building the customer's trust, the customer needs to know who they're dealing with. Or else it just goes to a point of frustration with the customer. Like it drops it for them.
Let me ask you this, since we're still kind of talking about the pricing model. The question is, I'm seeing a lot of dealers shift to one price model. This seems to remove friction. Thoughts?
Lots of them. The one price model for me doesn't work. And here's why. I believe you should serve people the way they want to eat. And serve them what they want to eat. So if I go to a restaurant and we're going to go to dinner tonight, and we're going to a certain restaurant, why? Because they have the best burger in town, the best burger. It's the most amazing burger on the planet. And we get there, and I sit down, and I've sold Michael on it, and I tell them we're going to order the burger. And I order the burger, and they bring out the chicken sandwich. It doesn't matter how good the chicken sandwich is. I wanted the burger. You got to serve people the way they want to eat. Some people still want to negotiate. This is my opinion. Don't throw things at me. But some people still want to negotiate. Some people need to feel like they're winning. Some people don't want to negotiate. How about you have the ability to serve every single customer? You can't sit there and say, I'm going to sell everybody a car, and then not have an ability to serve everybody, to sell everybody a car. And I say this because I use that stupid stat that the average good dealer in the industry closes their internet leads at 15%. That's cool. That means out of 100 customers, 85 said pound sand. That's not because they just disappeared. It's because they needed something and you couldn't provide it. So find a way to provide every 100 of those customers a way to do business with you that's easy for them. And I say that because some people like it fast. And everybody's talking, my experience is fast. Cool, what if I want it slow? What if I need you to slow down and explain things? What if I need you? I don't need it too fast. Because you can have two customers with the same salesperson. If Matt was my salesperson and we were the customer, I might need you to slow down and he might want you to speed up. You know how we know that? Like I spoke this morning, surveys. They'll tell you. You'll get the same salesperson give the same exact experience. One person said it was rushed. One person said it was not slow enough. And that's telling us that our customers buy differently. So trying to push everybody down one path, I think it's dangerous.
So, respectfully disagree.
Cool.
Just on used, I'll say. New, I feel like there's between rebates and a lot of other different ways pricing structured. I guess you could use the baseline for the price of the car. But for used, we're talking about consumer confidence. If they've done their research. I've not found the customer that just shows up and they're like, show me the used Corollas. They found it online. They found it somewhere. They saw the price online. That price, while it wasn't the decision maker, is a part of why they're buying the car. If you're priced to the market and you're one price, your salespeople have confidence that and saying like, hey, this car is inspected, it's clean, it's priced well. You know, let's talk about the car. Where one price fails, in my opinion, is you hit a 60-day window when you introduce it where it's shaky. You have people that are not used to presenting numbers and saying like, we can't talk about the numbers. Like, let's talk about the car. The car's priced well, and here's why. At a previous auto group, right when I got there, within the first 3 months, we switched to one price, and we saw a slight dip in the first 60 days, and then we started to see the increases, the profit increases. I think with as much data that's out there for customers, when they see the price, they're coming in thinking like, yes, it's the baseline's pretty good. It comes down to the sales managers, the salespeople having confidence in that to push that to the customer and say, this is right. However, if you're not priced right, then it's like...
So let me ask you a question on that, because it's an important point to this.
Yeah.
Is that customer comes in on the one price and they want $500 off. Just $500. They want to win.
Yeah.
Do you give it to them or not?
No. Because once you start making those exceptions, now
agreed.
It just goes downhill. So that's where you have to stand by it. Now, occasionally you can send out like a sales event coupon email, however you handle that, getting it to the customer, where it's like, hey, use this for an extra $250 off. For military members, teachers, whatever. Here's an extra $250 off. But then that actually means something, because used car pricing is so subjective that it's like, hey, well, we'll give you $1,000 off. Give us $1,000 off coupon. It's like, well, I was going to negotiate the $1,000 off anyway. It's like, oh, well, we'll only give it to you if it's presented when you come in, not after it's negotiated. Yeah. So if you're one price, it gives value to those things.
I think there's a nuance between the two, because one of the benefits that I get to look at is I get to look at regions, and I get to look at individual stores, and I get to look at national trends, right? And I think the real answer is it depends on who you are and what your market is and what your tolerances are for training. There are some companies out there that are one price, that are just killing the game right now. And I won't say their names, but I think we can probably understand who I'm referring to. And what I would encourage people to do is think of some of these one price, mega groups, search some of their inventory, and then compare it to your inventory and see how it prices. And their inventory is going to cost more. It doesn't, I've done this exercise, and maybe it's just a Southern California thing, but I've done this exercise probably every quarter. Well, I just take out run-of-the-mill cars and see how are these mega onlines, one priced, compared to my local dealer. And they're always more expensive, but they still sell and turn those cars.
The used car market, though, is different.
Yes.
The used car market is, you have, and when you look at the used cars, every dealer should be justifying their price. But it doesn't mean that you're locked into it, in my opinion. But you should be justified. You should not be so far out. Like, somebody should not be able to go get a $5,000 better deal on the same car same car somewhere else. Totally agree with that. But I just think locking yourself into that flexibility, because you got to make a choice. You try to be a one price store in Atlanta, Georgia, they're going to eat your lunch, right? And it doesn't matter how good that is. And again, because I get off the price thing, right? 12% of people make the decision on price. Stop making it about the price.
How does CarMax sell so many cars without negotiating?
And that's one of the things I was going to get to is when I talk about tolerance for these one price environments, I think everybody in this room knows what CarMax's pricing strategy is and selling strategy. It's one price. There's no ambiguity there. We get back to that transparency thing. There's no question. When you go in for a trade, this is what your trade is worth. When you go buy their car, this is what your car is, what you're buying it for. This is what it is. There's zero ambiguity. But if I opened up a store and I had a little bit of marketing that said one price, well, I'm a little bit of marketing in an environment that is not one price. It's very hard to get that same sort of customer buy-in and belief as somebody who screams that all day, every day. That's why I said the tolerances come from. Now, I live in Southern California, and we actually have some groups that are one price, and some of them have been one price since I've been in high school. Before I could buy a car, I knew that this particular group was one price. So if I walked into that particular store on Reseda Boulevard, I knew that I was not going to negotiate. That's what it was. So I'm not necessarily certain that one price is going to work unless you are able to pound that message in and maybe not even make those concessions.
Well, here's where we ended up. And was it where you thought?
No, I've never.
Let's tie a thread through each of this. Through each of your comments here, the sentiments, inspiring consumer confidence in a shifting market. There are certain things we know. The market will continue to shift. Mm-hmm. There's another fact to that, which is this might be one of the most resilient industries known to man.
There's no might.
That's something to be proud of.
There's no might in this. There's no might in this. There's dealers out there that used to sell horses and carriages, and they're still selling cars.
This is my panel. No,
right? Like there's no doubt in this. There's nothing in the consumer market that is as resilient as this, except for maybe food.
There's a third fact here, and I just have to point it out because it brings me joy. That you heard him imitate who he believes is the most annoying person he's ever met. You did the voice that we all do, which means we all know the same annoying person. Did you catch that? You went, nah, 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 nah. And it's like, I want to meet this person because that's the same annoying person for all of us. But let's tie this together. How do you inspire consumer confidence? This is what I heard, and I'm not sure about you. I hope we're tracking. What I heard is there's no greater mistake than making a promise in a digital world that you can't fulfill in person. And the way that you inspire confidence amidst a shifting market is to have honesty and integrity, to pick your path and to stick to it.
And if I can add one last thing to that, because that's kind of what I was hoping that we would come to. I think the importance of language is incredibly understated. I've been in this business for 1,000 years, and I didn't understand everything that was said at all of these sessions. There's a lot of acronyms that are floating around, right? There's a lot of industry speak. If you ever transfer some of this industry speak to a customer, you're done, in my opinion. Something that I heard once is, and I'd like to make it my own. In the 25 years I've been in this industry, I still can't really quantify what 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds really means. I really can't tell you what that means. But I can tell you that this car can get you onto the freeway fast. So you can be confident when you're driving your kids, right? The language that we use, the choices that we use, the way that we enact this transparency, this is what's really going to inspire confidence in not markets, but just the people that we're dealing with as well. So I want us to be thinking about our language as well.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Let's hear it for our panelists.